You know, I've made a career going off the rails.
Yeah,
Now I got to
exactly.
keep you guys on the rails. But I do have to say, it's an honor as a filmmaker to be up there with such incredible characters. I mean, it was. My brother Pete and I have made a bunch of movies. We've probably made around 20 or so, and they've been met with success and all that, but I think only one of them stood that test of time where it's still in the zeitgeist, and that's probably Dumb and Dumber. Because
Yeah, exactly.
you know, you look at the presidential debates, they're going to say Dumb and Dumber. You know,
Exactly.
it's going to happen all the time, but to remain relevant like that is extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah.
And the fact that you guys are still relevant, that was almost 50 years ago. That was 1976 or 7?
77.
Yep.
77. So that's, someone can do the math. It's a long time ago. But the fact that you're still as well known as you are, it's really something. I mean, I just tip my hat to you. It's almost impossible that you three characters, and I imagine when the script was written, nobody knew that you were going to steal the show. You were just three of the guys on the team. But
Oh, we knew it. Well, by the way, and the next one is Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest. We'll do that. We'll do it for you.
but for
But
you,
actually, Bobby, they thought they did know,
Yeah.
which is surprising because even before the movie came out, and it might have been before we finished, Universal Studios came to the three of us and said, listen, we want to sign you guys to a 7-year, 7-movie contract.
wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, well,
the brain surgeons that we were,
Yeah.
right? Well, do we get to play hockey at the same time? Well, we can't guarantee that. So you mean we can become movie stars, we can hang out with hot movie babes and move to Hollywood? Yeah, you can do that. No, we want to ride on a stick and iron lung bus for the next encore. Yeah, that was a brilliant.
Oh, yeah, nice move.
well, that's why you're relevant 50 years later. You would have been long forgotten. Okay, but the reason why they did that to you is because in the movie business, you send back, you film every day, and then you send back the film to the studio. You guys are in Johnstown, and they're in Hollywood, and so every day the film goes back. And the suits at the studio will sit down and they'll watch what was filmed yesterday, and it's called the dailies. And I'm sure that as they were watching those dailies, they said, "Oh my God,
Oh, yeah.
how good are these guys?" And so they tried to get you, 7-picture deal.
Wow.
And they tried to get you cheap because they knew that you guys were going to steal the show.
Yeah.
But to outshine Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And Paul Newman was great. Reggie Dunlop was an incredible character.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, one of America's greatest actors and leading man. But you guys outshined him and you stole the movie from him. So it's really incredible.
Well, a little trivia point on Paul Newman that maybe many people know, but I'm sure some don't. He was not the original Reggie Dunlop to be casted for that role. Al Pacino was originally.
What?
Yeah. Al Pacino was the first actor that got casted, and when George Roy Hill talked to Al Pacino, the director George Roy Hill, talked to Pacino and found out he couldn't skate, he cut him right out and went directly right to Paul. Tracked him down, and Paul read the script. He says, "I'm in."
Wow.
Yeah.
And as good as Pacino is, Paul Newman was the guy. It was meant
He'd
to be
look a
him.
whole lot better in a leather suit than Pacino would ever look, right?
Yeah. And you'd still be filming if working with a guy who can't skate. You'd be shooting from the waist up, and it would have never worked.
I have a question, if you guys don't mind. I've always wondered
I
this.
mind.
So, a lot of people, I figured you would. A lot of people here, I don't know if you guys realize it, but in 1974, 75, I think I have the year right. If I'm wrong, you guys tell me. These guys won a championship with Johnstown, right? And they all had in between 245 and 250 penalty minutes. Great, 3 of them, and all had a lot of points. So I'm going that clearly that year must have been some of the inspiration for the movie, if not all of it. But when did you guys realize Like, when did they come to you? Because you couldn't have known during that season, or maybe you did. But did they come after that and say, okay, this is like, and when they asked you to be in the movie, how did you take it? Did it seem like just out of left field, like out of nowhere?
Well, first, and I don't want to hog the mic, so jump in. But
Oh, I don't want to.
another little trivia question.
You're doing well.
So Jeff and Jack and myself, we're the tough guys. I mean, on the team. Jack only played half a season with us before he got called up to Minnesota, and still was third in penalty minutes on the team by the end of the season. And Jeff and I, the last game of the season, I'm leading the team in penalty minutes. And in my contract with the Minnesota Fighting Saints, I had a bonus of $1,000 if I ended the season leading the team in penalty minutes.
Wow.
Meathead goes out and gets a 5-10 and the game is conduct and beats me by 1 penalty minute.
Unbelievable.
And then I don't get the friggin' bonus because of the, and then he says afterwards, well, you should have told me. Yeah, right.
But to answer your question, first of all, both of you, we never knew it was going to turn out that way. We were hockey players. We are still surprised to this day that the people that come out and love it. We've been over to Germany and Australia, but it's a hell of a following, like you said. And we just went out there. We tried reading the script. George Hill says, don't read the script. Just do your thing. We have lived from the day one till the end of it. That's all we did. And that's the way we were back then. Wow. Nuts.
Yeah.
And I still am.
No, we had
Don't laugh.
a guy on the team, Ned Dowd, who played the character Ogie Oglethorpe in the movie. He was our teammate.
Yep.
And so that year that you're talking about, Ned's on the team with us. And throughout the season, we see him sitting at the back of the bus or in the corner of the bar or somewhere, talking into his hand. And finally we call him, what are you doing? And what we found out is he's sending back stories to his sister, Nancy, who wrote the script in L.A. Wow. So we kind of got an inkling about that, but, so the season we won the championship, didn't know anything about it through the summer. The next season we're playing again, and then things started talking about, well, they're going to make the movie, and they're casting characters. And they took Ned Dowd. He retired that year, and they took him to Hollywood to try to teach Nick Nolte, Peter Strauss, John Travolta, Donnie Most, all these A-listed actors to skate, because they wanted them playing our parts. And they couldn't skate. I think Peter Strauss broke his ankle trying to skate, and a couple and they couldn't skate. Ned finally said, why don't you go back and let these guys be themselves, play the roles. So they did. They came back, and that's when Jack was up in Edmonton, because they had originally had Jeff, Jack, and Steve to play the Hanson brothers, and the character Dave Killer Carlson was kind of loosely written after me, so they were going to have me play Dave Killer Carlson's role. And as it worked out, and we all lived together, and we're from Minnesota. We all grew up in Minnesota together, so they just plucked me out, and they says, okay, we got to add somebody that's a little bit smart and good looking into this trio. So we're going to put you in there, and we'll hire Jerry Hauser to play Killer Carlson. And
being that Jack can't be in the movie, we'll take Dave.
So that's kind of how that worked out. I mean, and so we actually started shooting some scenes while we were in the playoffs, which to this day, the old Johnstown diehard fans will say that screwed us from winning the second championship that year because we got distracted. But but that's kind of how it went.
I don't think anybody would have guessed that the script was written by a woman, and I don't mean to get sexist by that. It's just that it's so, in the team, in the locker room, that she captured so much the way the guys are talking.
She captured the spirit of the thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Dickie Dunn.
It was really a fantastic script, but they did the right thing by letting you guys be yourselves. There's no way she could write that dialogue and that you guys would, without being professional actors, hit it in a way that is better than watching yourselves in action.
Right.
Yeah, from what I heard, it was pretty controversial back then for a woman writing that type of script. And another little trivia point is when that movie came out and before it hit the theaters and got its rating, it actually was being pushed to be rated X because I think we set the record for F-bombs. Obviously, there's nothing politically correct about it, you know. Talk about Suzanne and you know, a few other wonderful, great sayings. So they had to push real hard to get the Motion Picture Association, is that what it is, Bobby? To get an R rating to them.
You know, it's even more politically incorrect nowadays than it was then. So-
That's why it's so popular, man. That's why everybody loves it.
But you set the mold. You know, it's far and away the greatest hockey movie ever made. But a lot of people know I love hockey, and they say, "Why don't you make a hockey movie?" And well, the simple answer is because I have no idea that would come close to beating Slapshot, and I don't want to do something way less, okay? Because it is far and away the best hockey movie ever made. I would make a case that it's the best sports movie ever made. I don't know which one would beat it. But what I was thinking of was the only other hockey movie that comes to my mind that was really good was the one that they made fairly recently, Miracle, about the 1980
Yeah, that was good. That was
hockey
good.
team. And they followed exactly what you guys did, is that they found, instead of going to get Hollywood actors and then teaching them to skate, because it takes a lifetime to skate like you guys skate, and you know, and the Olympic team, you're not going to teach actors to skate like that or in any convincing fashion. So they went and they got really, really good hockey players and taught them to act, which is a lot easier than trying to get an actor to learn how to skate. And so they followed your formula and they pulled it off. Those guys had, whoever the actors were actual players, and they just put them in such a place where it wasn't that challenging for them, wasn't as challenging, and the movie came out great.
Yeah, the only actor that could skate, that could keep up with us as pros and skate well and play with us, you know, whenever we had pickup hockey or got into action, with Michael Onken.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know you know this, but Michael went to the University of New Hampshire and was an All-American there. Yeah, and actually I think got an invite to the Rangers camp and had a poor experience, I think, with either a teammate or a good friend of his that died playing hockey, so he turned right to acting. But when he came in, he had his own gear, his own old college hockey shoulder pads and all his own gear, and he come out and he stayed right up with us, really, really well, and fit right in. So he, you know, now Paul Newman was a little different story. Paul worked hard at skating. He says he grew up in Ohio, skated on the ponds, played some hockey, trained a little bit before he came down. But when we got into, and he did really well in his shots. But when we had the faraway action scenes, they had a double for him, a former player, pro player at the time, out of Binghamton, Roddy Bloomfield.
Right, and it wasn't that many times. It was so, like you said, so quick that it's hard to pick it out.
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind me asking, so two of my favorite, definitely my top 10 would be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting. I think they came out in 71 or 72.
Yeah.
If it was me at that time, and I would have been a little bit starstruck. I guess you wouldn't have known going in it was Paul Newman, but when it was, like, how was he receptive to hockey? Like, did he enjoy that experience, or was it just another acting gig?
Well, I'm going to let Jeff tell his great story about him and Paul. But I'll tell you the first time I met Paul, which also, in my mind, is a great story for me. So, as I said, we're in the playoffs, and they're talking about bringing a movie in. They got people in there. They're filming actually some of our real live action scenes. I guess, you know, we got brawls and stuff. So it's game day, and I'm having my pre-game nap, and my roommates were Hank Taylor and Bruce Boudreau, and there's a pounding on the door, and I'm waiting for the other two guys to get up. They don't get up. Pounding on the door. I get out of bed. I'm in my underwear, my dirty white socks, and I open the door. Well, the steps up into my apartment were from down coming up. So I open the door, and I'm standing up looking down, and in my underwear and socks, and there's Paul Newman standing right in front of me. You know, and I don't know who was more shocked, him looking at me or me looking at him, but he puts his hand down and he says, "Hi, I'm Paul Newman." I says, "Oh, I guess you are." He says, and he says to me, he says, "Oh, were you sleeping?" I says, "Yeah, we got a game tonight." He says, "Oh, I'm really sorry to bother you." He says, "But, you know, I got these guys, you know, from the art department, and we were told to come over to your place to look at a hockey player's apartment. We want to see what the apartment looks like, and you know, do you mind?" I says, no, I don't mind. I said, but listen, I'm going back to bed. I said, just go in and do your best to be quiet. He says, okay. So they come in. I said, walk back. He says, Dave? I says, yeah. He says, the race is on TV. Do you mind if I go in the living room? He said, looking around. I'm going to turn the TV on. I said, no, Paul, go ahead. Make yourself at home, this and that. And so I'm ready to get into the bedroom. He says, Dave? I said, oh, fuck. Yes, Paul. He says, you got any beer? Because, man, he was a beer drinker. I said, yeah, the beer's in the fridge. I says, just drink what you want. Just close the friggin' door when you leave. But that was my first meeting with Paul Newman. So being starstruck,
That's a great answer. Thank you.
But you got to listen to this one, and I'll just lead up to this one.
Oh,
Paul
man.
loved to drink beer. I mean, he worked hard. He was awesome on set. And to answer your question, he was just a wonderful, wonderful man. Just friendly. You never know he was the star of the show. But when we would get done, he would, hey, where are we going? We wanna, this and that. So one of the nights we're out in the bar, and
I was in the bar about hour and a half before him, drinking Coca-Cola, and pounding the beers down as usual. And he comes in with his driver, not his golf club, a driver, and so he comes in, sits down next to me, so we're drinking back and forth. And we're sitting at the bar that's a little lower than the other ones. And behind us, you got the old radiators that heats us on, and I got bib overalls on. Anyhow, we're drinking, and someone says, hey, Jeff, Paul Newman can out-drink you. So they got those silver gauntlets where you shake your drink up. So they fill those up. We sat there, and he says, all right, I'll try it. So we slam the beers down. Paul beats the shit out of me in drinking it. No problem. So we sat there and bullshit for it. All of a sudden, I got to take a leak. So I get up, and I slip backwards. I slide down the wall, and I hit that radiator back there. And Paul says, you okay? You okay? I said, yeah. So I end up staggering in the darn toilet. And he comes in. He says, Jeff, are you okay? I said, yeah. So we're taking a leak together, different stalls. And I feel something warm in my leg. I said, is he pissing on my damn leg? Oh, what the hell is this? So I turn around, bib over, I put my hand down, and there's blood all over my hand. I put a slice in my big cheek, about this far. And I said, look at Paul. He says, let me look. He looks at my ass. He says, we got to get you to the hospital. He brings me to the hospital with 6 stitches. Back to the bar, had a few more pops.
Wow.
Hey, I got the scar to show you if you want to see it. Oh, we had a wonderful time. I mean, again, as soon as George Rose, his guys, ad-lib, we didn't harm anybody, but we drove everybody freaking crazy. I mean, it was unbelievable. We took the walkie-talkies and can't find Dave, can't find Steve. Where are those guys? We don't know where they're at. Just on and on. And what was great about it, too, is that when we got there, we got together with the cooks, the truck drivers, the cast members, the hair, everybody, and we became one big, huge family. And we did number 1 and 2. We did the same thing there. We weren't sit there and being prima donnas and something else. We became part of them. And it was fantastic because we want to be treated the same way. It was great. It was great.
That's great.
Because we're nothing special. We're nothing special. We're just there to make people laugh.
That's great. For the first time in our career, actually, I said, I would never make a hockey movie because couldn't outdo Slapshot, but we are developing a couple of stories that they're not exactly in the vein of Slapshot, but a couple of hockey stories, and one's about, it was a script we came across, and it was about the importance of high school hockey up in Minnesota, and how big it is in the state tournament and all that, and it's set in Eveleth, and it's called The Way of the Warriors. It's a really good script, and it's about a coach, and the coach has cancer. It's a little bit more of a drama than a comedy, but I'm helping develop it, and I have attached my friend Chris Nelson, who is Chris. Nellie, you here? Yeah, Nellie, stand up.
There you are, yep.
Nellie is, we're at the 1 yard line now, but we're trying to get it going, and Nellie will be directing it. And so,
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a couple hockey players if I can find some.
Yeah. But if we ever get that going, we'll follow the lessons you taught us. That we're going to need real players. You know, there's not you can't fake it.
No.
You cannot fake it. It's too hard to learn how to skate. It really is.
Yeah.
It takes a lifetime.
And we're too damn old.
Do you still write? I know that you produce a lot and direct.
Yeah.
And early on you wrote. I mean, I know a lot about your career. Do you still write movies?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
I still do.
What's the process? I'm curious, as now that I'm into this world for a little bit. I worked 6 years as locations, which is a production assistant kind of thing. So I learned from that side, and then I fluke got into acting. But I'm interested in the process. When you were coming out, you're a hockey player, and I didn't realize till I met you in February that you're to the level. I mean, play at RPI is not easy. You're a reputable player, a very respected player. During that time, did you know that you were going to get into movies, and were you writing as like a teenager and it became a passion, or did you see an opportunity?
I was barely reading as a teenager. I was not writing. I wasn't
expecting that.
I wasn't a particularly good student, and neither was my brother. I studied geology in college.
Oh my God! Yeah,
He went to Providence College and studied accounting, and we had
geology and accounting to what we ended up seeing on screen. So
Yeah.
did you guys know?
So I don't mean to interrupt you, Bobby, but just let me put this in perspective. So obviously, I'm sure most of you can figure out what position he played. Goalie. Right? Geology. Goalie. Hey, jeez.
My brother Pete and I had the good fortune of sucking at being geologists and accounting, and so we're like, we had nothing left to, nothing to lose, and we thought a friend of mine and I came up with the idea to invent round beach towels at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was, because when you're at the beach, you have to, the sun moves across the sky. You got to get up and reposition your towel. So what if there's a round towel and you just move on that? It's incredible. So, yeah. Geology. Goalie.
A hockey background to the movies that we all know. Of course, geology is the link.
So that got me out to California. I thought, I'm going to go out there and sell these towels. We found out later that people really don't mind moving their towels. The round towel idea came close, but it never succeeded. Now, my brother Pete and I were both out there in LA. Everyone around us had something to do with aspiring to be in the film business. So we said, why don't we try writing a script? Well, we know a lot of crazy people and crazy stories, and we can start putting them together. One of the first ones we wrote was Dumb and Dumber, but it took us probably 8 years to get it made. And we had the script, and everyone would read it, and they say, that's really funny. What else you got? And I was like, well, what about that? And
did you know who's going to be in it? Did you know the Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey?
Only later on when it actually got close to getting it made. We kept handing it in to people and trying to get them to make it, and it just didn't get done. So then eventually we thought, we talked to this producer, and he said, why don't you guys make it yourself? And we're like, well, we don't know how to direct. And he goes, you wrote it. You can figure out how to direct it. Just surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. Get a camera guy and get a lighting guy and all that. They know what they're doing. You guys just direct the actors like you wrote it, like you envisioned it. That's it? I said, basically, if you do that, it'll be a start. And so we said, all right, well, we'll direct it. And then all of a sudden, we were going to make it very inexpensively, and we were trying to raise $100,000 to make a very, which would be out there as a very low budget movie. And as we did that, all of a sudden, things started to happen, and somebody got into the hands of Jim Carrey, who was not a big star, but he had been in Living Color. He was a TV star, and he read it and said, "I love this. I want to do it." And it just took off, and we were attached as directors, and we thought, sure, they'll come in and fire us, get a real director, but they never did. And
That's amazing.
yeah.
Do any of you guys have any questions for us?
Can I get real quick a Paul Newman thing? Oh, thanks. Paul Newman said that Slapshot was his favorite movie, and the movie he had the most fun making. And when you read things about him, he mentions that. But my questions are, what were your favorite scenes that you were in, and what were your favorite scenes that you weren't in the movie?
Well, I'll say there's so much, right? That's a tough call, but I still to this day laugh when I see the part where we're in a hotel room with our race cars. And you talk about the ad-libbing part. I mean, we had the 3 lines that we say in there. We're on the road, we're set to go tell us when. Those are scripted lines. But then they just kept the cameras running as, Jeff or Steve was running the car on the track and Jeff was counting and I got pissed off when I threw the car and said, "You broke the darn car. I'm not playing anymore." That makes me laugh whenever I see that, because that was an ad-lib part. I don't know about you, Jeff.
Well, a lot of stuff. They gave us the right direction to go in, and even Slapshot 1 and 2 and 3. Every time we shoot a scene, we'd get over-carried with it and keep it going. And sometimes the producer would say, "Did you get that? Well, we did the scene and stopped it. Don't ever stop the cameras when the Hanson brothers are out there. I want them running until they drop dead." And that's how they take it from. They cut it out what they're supposed to do in the whole darn bed. But again, once you get us wound up, it's like a toy. You can't stop us.
Well, one of my most satisfying scenes was when we first hit the ice, right? And that little 3-5 minute montage of us doing all this stuff. So the first close-up scene where they shot with me by myself was when the player skates down, stops. I come down behind him, grab him, turn around, swing and hit him, knock him down, and start pounding on him. So George Ray Hill's setting the scene up for us, right? And he calls in the other player. So as Bobby mentioned, everybody we played against pretty much were real professional hockey players, and most of the guys that we played against that season and the season before. So the guy they pulled in, I look at him, and it's this friggin' jerk that I hated the entire season. And I could never get him because he was a yapper and he was a chirper, and he wouldn't drop his gloves. And so George sets it all up. He says, "Okay," he says to the guy, "You're coming in here, you're gonna skate, Dave's gonna come in, grab you behind, swing you around. Dave, the camera's gonna be over here so you can miss him, and he needs to react like he's falling down." I says, "George, you got it." You know what's coming, right? Action! The guy skates, go up, I pull him up, I go, bam! And I nail him as hard as I can, right in the freaking jaw. Knock him out cold. And everybody's going, "Oh my God, medic, oh my God." The guy's there, George, I said, "George, I'm not a friggin' actor. I never did this before. I have no idea. I'm sorry." I finally got the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Next question.
Anybody else? Way up there.
All right, I have a question. It might be on the more serious side of things, but it's for Jack.
Okay.
So.
Are you serious?
I'll try to be.
I'll try to be.
You kind of had a huge decision in your life, just a little bit, I guess, choosing between Slapshot and hockey. I think it's pretty damn cool that you chose hockey. But what was I'm sure you had a gut feeling that told you one or the other, but I'm genuinely curious because I think it's one of those good examples for big decisions that you make.
Yeah.
Could you kind of describe what it felt like? Because
Sure.
Was it a full body feeling you knew one way or the other?
Well, I was playing for the Fighting Saints back in the mid-'70s, and unfortunately they had some financial issues, and the team that I was playing for disbanded in mid-season. So I ended up going, I was born and raised in Virginia, Minnesota, so I went back on the Iron Range, and my agent was trying to find somebody, a team for me to play. So I waited a week, 7, 8, 9 days. Jeff ends up calling me. He goes, "Jack, they're going to be doing this movie in Johnstown. We want you to come in. They want you to come and be in the movie." I said, "Okay, Jeff." I says, "Got a couple of questions though." how much money am I going to be making? Jeff goes, I don't know. I said, well, how long am I going to be there? Jack, I have no idea how long you're going to be there. I said, well, Jeff, I'm just not going to jump on an airplane and fly out to Johnstown. He goes, well, I'll have a producer get a hold of you. And I said, okay. Well, I waited a day or two and nobody called. And then the Edmonton Oilers ended up calling me and saying, Jack, we want you to come up here and finish the season. I said, well, when do you play? He goes, well, we play tomorrow night. So I jumped on an airplane, got to Edmonton, played the game, and then when I got back to the hotel room, the little light was flashing, and a fella from the movie had asked, we want you to come and be in the movie, you and your two brothers. And I said, I've already kind of made a commitment here. I said, I kind of waited for a phone call, but I didn't get one. He goes, but you didn't sign a contract, did you? I said, well, no. But I shook their hand, and I ended up saying, that was his goal to, shaking somebody's hand. So, but I do want to mention one thing, and I don't think I've ever told Dave this. I said, I could have not have, watching the movie and, being part of the Hanson brothers, and, but Dave did such a wonderful job in playing that role, and, he just fit in perfectly.
Well, it's kind of like Brad Pitt playing your life story.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Come on.
Right. But then,
let's not get carried away, right?
And kind of piggybacking on Dave, we were talking about the movie getting rated. Well, when I got in my early 50s, I ended up being a USA Hockey referee, and I would, get these young kids, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, and I'd face off, and one of the kids would ask me, were you in the movie Slapshot? I said, no, I wasn't. I said, but I'm sure you kids haven't seen the movie yet. And, oh, yeah. I said, well, you're 10, 11 years old. He goes, yeah, but we were over at my grandma and grandpa's house, and they let us watch it. Man, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, so to that story, so in the many appearances that we've made over the years, just a little kick off of that. So we're walking in to do this appearance at this place, and this little kid, I don't know, he's 7 years old, he runs up to me and he says, I'll teach you, you little prick. I said, what? He says, I'll teach you, you little prick. Which, we all know it's a line in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm going, where's your dad? And he goes, over there, Dad's going, okay.
Jack, I want to pick up on that. I have one question. So I believe it was a half dozen years in the NHL, which is incredible. But if memory serves me correct, didn't you take like 2 or 3 years off and then come back and play in the NHL?
Yeah.
So what were you doing? I think it was, okay, I'm spitballing here, but I think it's 83, 84 to 86, 87. So what did you do in between? Were you training? Did you know you were gonna? Did they need a player, or did you set your mind on coming back and I'm going to do it? Because that's quite an accomplishment to take 2 years off completely and come back and make the NHL again.
Well, I ended up at age 30. I ended up being in Pittsburgh Penguins training camp. It was the first year Lemieux came into the league, and when I went in and they said, Jack, you can go to any team you want to go to. We're going to go with the younger guys, okay? Get that now. 30 years old, we're going with the younger guys. So I thought, oh, shit. We're not going to let you, you can go to any team you wanted. So I went, I ended up saying, well, enough's enough. I wasn't going to go to the minor leagues and play and do all that stuff again like we did in the minor leagues in the old East Coast League. So I ended up getting a job as a sales rep for a shipping company. But I was going to the North Star games, and one night I'm sitting up in the press box after 2 years, and Lou Nanny walked by, and I said, Louie, I said, you've got Willie Plett out there playing. I said, what happens if he gets hurt? Who's going to protect the little guys? He goes, why are you asking? I said, well, why don't you re-sign me? He goes, oh, you serious? I said, yeah, I am if you are. So he goes, let me think about it. So in between the second and third period, he says, were you serious? I said, yeah. He goes, get in shape, I'll sign you. And back in '86, I ended up playing, coming out of retirement, and which I can honestly say to this day, big mistake. Big mistake. And Jeff and Dave can attest to this. When you go on the ice and you're afraid to get hurt, you shouldn't be going on the ice. So I played 19 games out of 60. So, and that was the end of it. I thought, no, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Interesting.
And I'll just since we're passing along compliments, Jack. Jack got hurt with the North Stars in 78, 79, Jack? And you
Yep.
had the back issue?
Yes.
So I get traded from Detroit to Minnesota, and I think I was playing in the minors actually at the time. And I specifically got called in the office and say, we're bringing you in to take Jack Carlson's spot because they needed a tough guy. And I can honestly say I could not fill those shoes. I stayed a half a season there, but I could not do what Jack Carlson do, who in my book is one of the toughest guys that ever played in the National Hockey League.
Wow.
And I would have got the call, but you couldn't find me.
You know, I like to point out that one of those things that Jack said, and it was just kind of a throwaway line, is that he shook the guy's hand and that was it. That was as good as a signed contract. And that's kind of like what I love about hockey. Anybody who plays hockey, there's a fraternity, and there's a code that you live by, and that kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the Sun so much, is because it's a really, really solid program, and it's great for young men to come and have this opportunity to play some more hockey in their lives and entertain the whole valley at a really low cost. It's really one of the best things about the Wood River Valley. It really is. I give Cubby and all the OGs, all the guys that have been here from the beginning, credit for that, because they don't let it die. They make sure that it's still there, and it doesn't run itself. It doesn't. It's something that it could go away, and it would be a real loss. You know, it really would. It takes a lot of work to keep a program like this going, but it's so worthwhile. And the people in it, the group of guys that are there right now are really amazing. They really are. Every single one of them is a solid guy. I trust each and every one of them. I really would with my life. I wouldn't trust them all with my girlfriend, but they're such good guys. That's a hormone thing. They're such good guys, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum. That's why I love hockey. Is it just?
Bob, you could trust Jeff and I. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah. So trust us.
Anybody that tries to drink a beer out of their Crocs, I would trust too. I mean, I was here last year, and I was at Grumpy's, and I forget who it was, but he's trying to drink a beer out of his Crocs. I'm thinking, and he wasn't a goalie, Bobby. He was a defenseman.
I didn't say they were smart. I said they were good guys.
Hey, we're not here to talk about Suns. We don't want to go into that, okay?
Well, but just to cover it, I mean, his backup guy was underneath trying to catch it all. I got you covered. I got your back.
Teamwork.
Guys, we actually do have one other special guest who has a question she wants to ask, but I want to introduce her first. Renee, do you mind standing up? So, folks, Renee Cook, who lives here, reached out to me about a month ago, and she says, "Hey, Sean, I heard you're putting on Slapshot. I was in that movie, and I live here." And I said, "You got to be joking. You got to get down here." And she said, I'll come down. And I said, "Can you ask a question? What do you got for the guys?" So, Renee, first, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And please.
Before I ask a question,
Stand up.
That's been going on for 50 years.
But wait a minute, Renee, before you ask the question, you got to tell people who you were in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
But which one? Ask her.
Sadly, I was not fortunately, I was not the last bluebird on the pinwheel. I was the next to the last bluebird with a little red wig on, because we were all in like 18 years old, 19 years old, and they wanted girls to look older, so they put us all in short wigs. But anyway, I have to also say that I've known these guys before they were movie stars. I met them as characters, and they are still quite the characters.
Her dad, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Renee, but her dad is the guy that threw us out of the hockey game our first scene. The referee.
Yeah.
who was also our coach the year we won the championship.
When we won the real championship. Yeah.
In real life, when I was in college and my dad said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe these three brothers that are going to be on the team." I was away in college and I said, "Oh, I can't wait to meet them all." And it was Jack, Jeff, and Steve, and then I met Dave. It was wild times back in the 70s, but I guess we all survived. But my question is, how did putting on the foil get started?
Well, interesting you say, because your dad plays a role in this.
Yeah.
So Jeff, Jack, and myself, when we started playing that season, we would tape our hands with hockey tape, similar to a boxer, obviously not as much as a boxer, to have that edge. When we dropped the gloves, you had the tape protect your knuckles, but also, add a little bit of scuff to the guy's face that you're fighting. So about third through the season, after we made our rounds through the league, all the teams started complaining about, among other things, us having tape in our hand. So the commissioner actually put a rule in that they called the no tape rule. You could not put tape on your hands, and if you did and you got in a fight and you cut the other guy and he's bleeding, you get thrown out of the game. So the ingenious that we were, Dick Roberge, Renee's dad, who was coaching us, was also a golf pro at the local golf country club in Windber, Pennsylvania. So we say, "Hey, Dick, can you get us some golf gloves?" "What do you want, golf gloves?" "Can you get us some golf gloves?" So back then, think about it, and you guys that are golfers, back then the golf gloves were made out of a pretty thick leather, unlike the synthetic material they are now. So Dick gets us golf gloves. He gives them to us. The night before the game, we scrape up our knuckles on the gloves. We put them in water, and behind us, if you ever watch closely, Jeff's got a pet brick sitting on there.
Pet brick.
Yeah, sitting on the radiator behind him. We would put the golf gloves on there overnight. Before game time, right before game time, they were nice and crispy and crunchy.
Crusty,
We would put them on.
Yeah.
And
Just the way we liked them.
Yeah.
And we would literally make sure we dropped our gloves before our hands got sweaty and the leather got soft. So Nancy Dowd, just like she did with some other things, just took that to the next level of putting on the foil. And she created that scene for us for putting on the foil every game. Yep. So that was that.
We got one more special guest in the crowd here, and it's not very often that you got a person here played in the NHL, 876 games. He won a Stanley Cup with Montreal in '93. And he also has a question for you guys, too. Sean Hill, please, from Duluth, Minnesota.
Thank you. Watch your mouth, Nelly.
Yeah, no fucking
This is
swearing.
PG. This isn't X. All right.
Maybe there's a reason why he's sitting up there and you're down here.
10 years in the show.
All right. So first of all, I've heard about the Sun since I was probably 16 years old, being from Duluth. And I just want to say it's been great being out here, getting to know some of the players, being with Cubby and seeing how much you guys, the Suns, mean to this community. Awesome to finally see it and to be a part of it. Really cool stuff. Look forward to getting to know more of you next few days. But as far as the movie goes, guys, just like everyone else in here, love the movie. But after all these years, have you guys ever figured out who owns the Chiefs?
Owns. It's Anita. Anita owns the Chiefs. Yeah. She's got that son that you better keep an eye on him because.
There you go. All right.
Okay, are we done?
We're done?
Well, I mean,
Let's watch the movie.
I'm sure we could do this all night and everyone would love it. But first, a round of applause for everyone. Guys, that was incredible. Here's how we're gonna do. You guys are gonna go get your beers and fuel up. We're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to get the movie started. There'll be an intermission, an hour in. We'll do more Q&A.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job.
So out and back, and here we go.
Good. Short and sweet, I like that. All right. You're late. Okay, what?
I gotta wait for people to get back.
No, I'm just sitting there.
I just went over to Cellar and had 2 shots, and I forget that a shooter here is like
I can take that
show
one.
limit. It's like it's like 3 fingers of whiskey. In Canada, it's just a shot glass.
It's a little unusual. We're out here doing Q&As midway through the movie, right?
Yep.
So we'll be real
It
quick,
really is, yeah.
real quick.
And why are we talking to ourselves?
I don't know, because I guess if we came out and sat down, we have to do something. And there's people that are expecting something, I assume. I didn't realize. Now, that's a great shirt right there, my man, with the handlebars. Yeah, I love it. Anyway, what am I talking about?
The bus scene.
Oh, yes.
Is that what just wrapped up? Was the bus scene when we mooned?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Did you recognize me?
Show 'em.
I'll show you. It was a full moon, not a half moon.
So actually, there's a great story surrounding that scene. So Newman was a great practical joker, and when we shot it in Western Pennsylvania, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and Coors did not make it that far yet. Coors beer just came out. It was a Western
Right,
beer.
it didn't come east of Rockies.
And Paul was loved his beer. So he had like 100 cases of Coors shipped in. And his setup was, we had a hotel down at the downtown Johnstown that everybody had rooms there. But he had a room there, but he also had a room, and Johnstown's in a valley. If you know anything about Johnstown and floods and stuff, it's in a valley. So, but he also had stayed in the doctor's house up on top of the hill. So if we had early shooting or late shooting, he would stay in the hotel. So he had 100 cases of beer shipped in, and I think this was part of his game plan. He also had a private sauna, a single-person private sauna built for him in the hotel. So no doubt in my mind, he drank the beer at night and sweat it out in the morning before he came upset. So anyhow, there's a night where the bar in the hotel, we're all in the bar in the hotel, and Paul's not there. So we're figuring Paul's up on the hill, staying in the house. We sneak back behind into the kitchen, and we find these big bags of popcorn. And we go out to Paul's sauna, and we fill his sauna full of popcorn, right? And we're thinking, he's not going to be in it that night, but the next night we got to shoot. We know he's going to have to stay in a hotel, and he's going to be in a sauna. So we go on set. One day we shoot, we don't hear anything. The next day we shoot. So we shoot a couple days, and Paul doesn't say a word to us, and we know that he opened the door and all the popcorn come pouring out, right? So we knew that it happened, but he didn't let on. He didn't do anything. So we just kind of forget about it. So we're shooting this scene. It's in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, a little small community, rural community in Ligonier. And as you see it, it's one of those late night shots again. And we're waiting and we're bussing. Now we're drinking and we're starting to get tipsy and Jeff's getting hammered and
Just Jeff.
Get him.
and so. Prior to the butt scene, there was the scene, I don't know if you noticed it, where the booster bus pulls up and our bus pulls up and everybody jumps off when we switch in buses, right? So we're shooting that scene first up there. And the people on the booster buses are just extras. They're fans, the doctors' wives that want to be in a movie and these kind of people. So again, we're waiting. We know what we're going to do. So we say to Paul, hey, we got a great idea. Yeah, what? He says, we say, hey, when the buses pull up, and we go running out. Let's take all our clothes off. We'll be bare-ass naked. We'll go running out, and we'll shock, the doctors' wives, and and won't that be funny? Won't that, Everyone's going, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm with you. 100%. So finally they say, action. The bus takes off. We're stripping down. The doors fly open. We go running out, and we're flopping around and this and that and jumping up and down. And those people are going, oh my gosh. Now keep in mind, we're thinking it's late at night. It's a little rural community. The only people who are going to be there is the director, a couple camera people, and a couple people from the crew. Jeff, Steve, and I look around. We realize the whole friggin' town standing there looking at us. Everybody. And we're going, oh, shit. And then we're going, well, where the hell's Newman? And Newman's sitting up, hanging out the window of the bus going, payback's a bitch, boys. Payback's a bitch. So, Ligonier, the community of Ligonier, wanted to have us thrown in jail and got the state police. They wanted to come and get us arrested. And Universal Studios had to hire lawyers to keep us out of jail and keep the movie going. So I don't know what that had to do with the butt scene other than they did the butt scene.
I don't either. I was going to say something.
Other than,
but you're in a good role.
Well, that's the only time we got paid extra because we said, hey, we didn't know we were going to have to show our butts in a movie. And they said, well, we'll give you $50 extra. We go, okay, we're in. But that was the same night. Later on, we had a. I don't want to throw you under the bus.
Oh, throw me under the bus.
But we had to pull him out from under the seat and literally prop his ass up through the window.
You're on the road. Keep going. I like this. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm done.
Okay, that's the halftime.
Cut. Back to the movie.
Enjoy the rest of the movie.
Are we done?
Yeah.
No, you got more?
Anybody else?
All right, we'll give you a question.
Here's a question right here.
Let's go with.
Yes.
Hey, you guys, I always thought the glasses were part of the stars of the show out there. And I sort of look back, Jack, I was thinking when you were talking about Virginia, and I was trying to identify who was who and who played which part or whatever. So I went and looked at a photo of the Virginia high school team they have. And,
oh, yeah.
And I was, how they list the names of the people, and I started looking at that, but then I realized all I had to do is look at the guys with the glasses on.
Yeah, exactly.
And those were the Carlson brothers.
That's right.
How did you ever play with the glasses on?
Well, my father worked in the iron ore mines, and there was no way that he could ever afford contact lenses for us. So remember a coach for the Islanders, Al Arbor, wore them when he played. So we thought, okay, well, we'll stick with those until later on in our careers that we got the contacts.
Yeah, it was about 5-6 years for me, and the glasses were rubbery. When you hit them, they'd fall off, they wouldn't break.
No, they were safety glasses, right?
Basically,
minor safety glasses.
And it protected my eyes a lot, but didn't help my nose. The only reason I wore them because the glasses, my nose is big enough. So.
The first pair of glasses that they gave us from the props to wear.
Oh my gosh!
They were rounded. They were beveled, and they were kind of shaded. And then they had they had flat spots right in the middle. So you look through, and they says, "Here, guys, this is what we want you to wear in a movie." We're going, "Really?" So they said, "Yeah, go try them out." So we put them on. We went out and skated a while, and we came back, and we literally were seasick.
Yeah,
we
sick to our stomach.
Yeah, we told them we can't wear these. So then they came back with the thick bottled glasses and.
It's still hard. It is still hard to see through them, but but you can make it work out.
And it did play. It did hurt our noses.
And not only that, they're great because especially you see ladies. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, everybody looks like Dolly Parton.
Oh, exactly. I was going to say something like huge, but I thought it better not.
Okay, I think maybe we got time for one more.
Right here.
One more.
Hello.
Right here.
Doc, right
you
here.
just mentioned your father briefly. I was going to ask you, what did your parents or do they think of you?
Mine disowned me. I haven't spoken to them in 47 years.
Our parents never watched the movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's rated R.
I don't know. I think my parents liked it. I don't know.
I think the
That's a
first
good
time it came out, we were in Hartford, Connecticut, and when the movie came out, and when my mother saw it, I ended up calling her. I said, "So, Mom, did you see the movie?" "Yeah." I said, "So, what did you think of it?" She goes, "Well, I didn't care much for the language." "Oh, okay. You don't know how hockey locker rooms are either."
Oh, exactly. Even nowadays.
I got a question.
Raise your hand. Oh, yes.
There, sir.
Yeah, the cowboy.
So Bobby touched on it earlier about with hockey that you guys the hockey was so authentic because you guys were real hockey players, and I've done several hockey movies to my name, but I'm curious how much of it was actually scripted, like choreographed hockey plays, and how much was just like turn the camera on and let it go.
The hockey scenes, like the montage, for an example. That was all scripted.
Yeah.
In fact, being a movie buff, and you guys, the movie people here, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Bobby, you'd probably know this better than anybody, but I think there were some innovations made then where they set up the first track and would shoot the action scenes run on a track up and down the ice, and then it got to the point where, because there was so much action going on and you need to be more mobile, they would have a hockey player pushing another guy around in a wheelchair with a shoulder camera, and then shoulder cameras are big cameras. Vic Kemper, did you ever know Vic Kemper? I mean, he's an award-winning cameraman for that, and he was the guy that innovated a lot of stuff, and they would push him around on a wheelchair around the ice, and it was pretty cool, but it was scripted. I mean, everything we did in that montage was scripted. But again, like the scene I described earlier, where I punched a guy out. There was another similar funny part to that. So when we did the stick scene, when Steve goes down the bench and he's slapping everybody on the side of the head, so the hockey stick was a wooden hockey stick, Christian Brother hockey sticks. And the blade was rubber.
Rubber blade. Yeah.
So the idea, obviously, was Steve would go down and he would just hit everybody with the rubber, and it wouldn't hit him, and everybody would react and this and that. So we're getting ready to shoot the scene, and I say, "Steve," I said, look who's in that row." And he says, "Who?" I said, "Look, the guy right there without the helmet."
Bench,
He saes, "Oh, yeah." He says, "That's that jerk that sits up in the stands all the time yelling at us." I said, "That's him."
That's him.
I said, "Why don't you get him?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to get him." Action. Steve goes down. He's hitting everybody on the side of the head with the rubber part. He gets to that guy and he puts the stick and he whacks him, hits him with the wooden part of the stick. And the guy, everybody goes down, and George Roy Hill says, "Cut," and everybody's standing up laughing. That poor bugger's coming up and he's rubbing his head. What the hell?
Do it again.
And George says, "That was pretty good." And I said, "George, I think you need to do that again." So after about the fourth time, this idiot finally realized, and he's got welts and knots in his head, he puts a helmet on after that. And so that was another payback.
Oh, yeah. Paybacks are
hockey players like Gordie Howe. You always say, "I may not get you now, but I'll eventually get you." They got good memories, right? So that's what happened there.
All right, we just want to thank everybody for supporting all the stuff going on here. And for my first time, this is your second time?
Yeah.
Mine and Jack's first time?
Yep. Thank you.
We had a great freaking time.
Yeah.
Great freaking time. And hope we're invited back. But thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
You guys are fantastic.
Good job. Hey, thanks, boys.